All right, today we're going to cover estimating numbers and then also a little bit about comparing, but also putting numbers in order and how we will do that, like with fractions and things like that and decimals. First thing we're going to talk about is the decimal place value chart. So every number has a place value within a number. I'm going to write numbers in here. I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm going to write a 1 again. So if I write this number out normally, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.891. Every 3 we do a comma. Okay, so this is a very big number that has decimals, but each one of these numbers in here has a place value or a name that goes with that value chart. So comparing this number to this, and we're looking at the decimal place, anything to the left of the decimal is our whole numbers, anything to the right are fractions or decimals. Anything to the right, there's always a TH at the end, so you can see in the first one there's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and it would go on to 10 thousandths corresponding with that, then 100 thousandths with a TH at the end, 1 millionths, and it goes on forever. The only difference between the left side and the right side is this one spot. So the number just to the left of the decimal is considered the one spot. And the reason you need to know this, it's, if you want to round to the nearest ones, it would be talking about that. Where people get confused is that first decimal point to the right is not a 1th spot. It starts with tenths. So that's unique to the left side, and then it starts tenths, hundredths, thousandths. But after that, you can see the relationship: tens, tenths, hundreds, hundredths, 1,000s, thousandths. So it kind of goes like that. All right, now, when we are rounding or estimating a number, they will always tell you what place value you are going to round to. You might round to the nearest 10,000s, and you'll have to know that that's the place value. You might have to round to the nearest tens. You'll have to know where that place value is. They might have you round to the nearest hundredths, and you would have to identify where that place value is. All right, so when we are estimating, all right, you need to look at the number to the right of the place value that you are going to round to or estimate. If that number to the right is 5 or higher, that number will go up 1 digit in value, and the rest of the numbers would either go away or they become zeros. If it's a 4 or less, you keep the number the same, and then you drop the rest and they become zeros as well. All right, so let's look at a couple examples. So those rules apply anytime we are estimating or rounding numbers. So in this example, we say round to the nearest tenth. Well, up here, tenth is the first number to the right of the decimal. So I am rounding to that 3 right there, which means I have to look at this 7. That 7 is going to tell me what to do with the number that I'm rounding. All right, since that 7 is higher, is a 5 or higher, we round this number, this tenth, that 3, up to a 4, and then we get rid of the rest. All right, here's another example. If we are rounding to the 10th spot is that 4, because that 4 is in that 10th place value spot. We look to the number directly to the right. It's a 3. Since that is 4 or less, it remains a 4, and we get rid of everything else there. So that would be 14.4. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple examples. So we're gonna round to the nearest tenth. So again, just like these examples, we're looking at this 2. That's the number that's either going to stay a 2 or it's going to go up to a 3. This 7 tells us what to do with that 2. Since that 7 is 5 or higher, it is going to change it to a 3. So this number becomes 14.3, and the rest goes away. So we just rounded to that next value. Over here, again, we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so we look at that 4, and this 2 will tell us what to do with that 4. Since that 2 is 4 or less, it just remains a 4. So the answer to this one would be 123.4, and the rest goes away. All right, over here, we're rounding to the nearest hundred. Remember, notice that there's no th at the end. So 100 is this third spot over from the decimal to the right. All right, so if I find the 100 spot, would be this 2. All right, and this 3 is going to tell me what to do with that 2. Since it's 4 or less, that 2 remains a 2. So this becomes 1, 2, and the rest become zeros. I don't need to put the decimal with all those other zeros, but I do if it's a whole number. So that 3 and that 4 becomes 0. This number rounded to the nearest 100 would be 1,200. I can put a comma there if I want. Okay, and in this problem, our 100 is the 5. That's in the hundreds place value. This 8 tells us what to do with that 5. Since that 8 is 5 or higher, that 5 becomes a 6. So 1, 6, and then zeros the rest of the way out. All right, so here we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, and we see that there's a th at the end. So I look at my chart. It's the second number over, which means this third number is going to tell me what to do. So I look at the second number, it's a 2. And the third number, this 2, tells me that that 2 stays the same. So this will be 222.22. And that's ending in the hundredth spot, so I would not put that last 2 in there, obviously. All right, so over here, again, I'm still rounding to the nearest hundredth. The hundredth is that 2. So this 7 tells me what to do with that 2. That 7, because it's 5 or higher, is going to have that 2 go up to a 3. So this would be 4.33, and then the rest goes away. Okay, so that's rounding and estimating. We're always looking to the number just to the right of the place value we are going to be going to. So you need to be familiar with your place values to be able to round numbers. Okay, so the second part is comparing numbers. We are going to be able to compare values of numbers. Now, the farther to the left we go on our numbers, the bigger they is. What I mean by left, the farther to the left of the decimal point. So obviously, 1 million is bigger than 100,000. The ones are bigger than the tenths. So more numbers on this side of the decimal point mean bigger numbers. All right, so if I am going to look at all of these, and I'm going to put these in order. I'm reading numbers from left to right, meaning this 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever has the most numbers over here and are the higher, that's going to be the bigger number. So if I'm going to put these in order, I'm going to reverse my thinking. From least to greatest, I'm looking for the smallest number to start with. Well, I'm going to just number from greatest to least. So if I look at this, I can look at 1, 25, 4 point something, 4.86, 5 point. So in these are all numbers that just go up to the 1 spot. There's nothing in the 1 spot there. This has numbers in the tens spot, and this just has a number in the 1 spot. So if I'm looking at the smallest number, this one doesn't even have one in the 1 spot, so that's the one I would list first. So 0.526. Okay, that's gone. All right, so now I have, what would be the next smallest number? Well, I'm looking at my ones with the 1 spot. I have a 1, a 4, a 4, a 5. Well, 1 is our next smallest, so I would put 1. That's now gone. Now of these 3, because these all only go to the 1 spot, I have to figure out which one is smaller. So this is 4.4. I'm just going to go to that next spot. This is 4.8. Well, 4.4 is less than 8, so I would say 4.475 as my next one. 4.86. Now I'm at the 5. 5.79, and now I'm at my numbers that have the tens. So 25 is smaller than 88, so 25 and 88. If there's a lot of decimals, sometimes it's nice to line them up vertically so you can actually see the numbers, but we don't need to do that for those. Okay, now what if we have to order numbers and we have fractions? Well, fractions we can only really compare if they have the same denominator. All right, so what we want to do with fractions when we are ordering numbers in fractions, we want to make sure that we convert the fractions to decimals so that we can compare them like we did up here. After we convert them to decimals, we can then put them in order and then we can convert them back to fractions. So I always do these little arrows so I know which one goes with which. All right, so we've already previously learned how to change fractions to decimals, and we can do that just simply by dividing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 5 over 2, 5 divided by 2 gives me 2.5. So I'm just going to make a 2.5. 3 divided by 5, that gives me 0.6. 0.6. 14 over 77. 14 divided by 77, that gives me 0.18 repeating. So 0.18 repeating, so it's 1818. 6 over 5, 6 divided by 5, it gives me 1.2. 1.2, and 7 divided by 8 gives me, let's see here, so 0.875. So now I have to put these in order. I'm going to go from the smallest to the biggest. So let's look at all of our decimals. We're going to compare them by there. So the smallest of these, so I have a 2 in the 1 spot. This is a 0, 0, 0, and a 1. So it has to be one of these three as my smallest. So then I go to the 10th. In this one I have a 6. This I have a 1. This I have an 8. So this 1 is our smallest number. So I'm going to rewrite. I know that 0.18 repeating is 14 over 77. So the first one I'm going to list is 14 over 77. All right, the next one I'm going to list, because now this one's done, is going to be the 0.6, because 0.6 is less than 0.8. So I'm going to list the 0.6, which is 3 over 5. All right, the next one I'm going to list would be 7 over 8, because that would be my next one where I don't have a number in the 10 spot. All right, and now I have 2 left, 2.5, 1.2. 1.2 is smaller, so I can list the 6 over 5. And then at the end we have 5 over 2. All right, sometimes they'll give you numbers to list in order that have a combination of decimals and fractions. You know, those fractions, just put them back into decimals, and then in your final answer you can rewrite them as fractions.